Hi, guys. It's Annette, and I'm going to pretend like the world's not about to kill each other this week. A lot of people go through their whole life trying to find the pursuit of happiness. Well, what is happiness? What makes you happy? Dopamine. Dopamine makes you happy. Boring! I've been researching dopamine for my own research to better understand addictions, mental health, sugars in the body. Well, now I just want to share what I've learned this far, and I'm just scratching the surface. There's so much more. I find it fascinating. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. We have a lot of chemicals like that in our brain, but dopamine's like the popular, cool one. Dopamine is made in your body and it is used in your nervous system to send messages back and forth to your nerve cells. That's why sometimes you might hear it called the chemical messenger. Dopamine plays a big role in pleasure and also helps you out with planning and thinking. You could get a hit of dopamine in many ways. Physical activities like having sex, laughing with friends, shopping, the list goes on. Dopamine plays a big part of addiction too, such as things like alcohol. You also get your biggest hit. I'll show pictures of where dopamine is in your brain, and when it's released, you get the biggest hit. So that's why your first drink of the night when you're partying is always the best. That's the biggest hit of dopamine you're gonna get. Years ago, I was a heavy drinker, probably until about 35. I'm turning 42 this month. Guys, for my March Pisces, happy birthday to you guys. So when I was younger, I was a big party girl. I used to drink a lot, and now I have an addiction to sugar. In today's modern time, everyone has a slight addiction, even if you think you don't. It could be gaming, gambling, social media, if you're always scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, shopping, food. Everything could be an addiction, and I wanted to understand it better. Dopamine is part of our reward pathway. Our prefrontal cortex, which is our third eye, also known as gray matter. So your prefrontal cortex is where you make your decisions, where your critical thinking comes from. If anyone's even allowed to critical think anymore. Grayson, you can come in here. I'm filming. Grayson, you can come in here. If you guys see this plant move around a lot, it's because I keep stopping and then I put the plant where I'm sitting and I focus the camera on the plant so it'll get my face. So then I have to put the plant back. When dopamine's at play, let's say you're drinking alcohol. It silences your gray matter, your third eye, your frontal lobe. So this is why you might make bad decisions, like driving home if you're too intoxicated. But it also gives you liquid courage. It might give you the courage to flirt with that person at the bar that you normally wouldn't. Your brain always wants to find a pattern. Dopamine gives your brain that reward pattern, leading to habits, leading to addiction. Food addiction, drugs, social media, gaming, gambling. Like I said, your brain always wants to find a pattern. Your brain also always wants to level out the chemicals, which plays a huge part on your mood. Leveling out your pleasure with pain, causing you to have that come down feeling after you drink, after you do anything you're addicted to. When you have a huge dopamine hit, your brain is automatically going to try to level it out. Your brain is going to immediately correct, down regulating your dopamine with the receptors. Remember, pleasure and pain. So when the receptors come into play, this is going to cause anxiety, depression, a lot of other stuff we don't want. Because you were on a high, but we're going to try to level it out. Your brain's automatically going to get those receptors in there. And then you're going to be a little bit on the sad side. This is why you might cry at the end of a night of drinking. You went out partying. You had a great time. But at the end of the night, after a few drinks, you're crying your eyes out. Everyone's like, what is wrong with this girl? I've been there many times. I have cried many times after a night of drinking. I've been that girl. Okay, I'm going to keep using alcohol as an example just because it's an easy one to use. A lot of people couldn't relate to it. But let's say you have a glass of wine every day after work, a beer every day after work. That was me. Beer, wine, whichever. Your brain's going to get in this pattern that you're going to have that drink every night, that hit of dopamine. But let's say you don't have that hit of dopamine and you skip having that drink one night. Well, your brain is in the pattern that you're already going to have that drink. So it's already going to put in those receptors to bring you down, even though you never got up, because it's finding the pattern. So you're going to get sad, anxious, which causes you to want to drink again. It becomes a pattern because you got really sad. So it teaches you to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol because it made you sad when you didn't have it, which self-medicating does lead to addiction. I did want to touch bases really quick on antidepressants. Antidepressants can work for many people, but if you are someone that drinks alcohol often, antidepressants is probably not the best thing in your interest. It's going to work against you with the alcohol. Plus, if you have depression, anxiety, or PTSD, it's always better to work through your problems than just to mute it until later. That's why a lot of programs like 12-step programs, the 12 steps really does focus on like a spiritual based teaching, and it makes tons of sense. These programs were created to open your third eye, your gray matter, so you can use critical thinking, make better decisions. It's all about bringing that third eye so you can start thinking about what's right or wrong, good or bad for you. Meditation also releases dopamine, so it gets you in that high as well. Now, with all this being said, dopamine is not a bad thing. It's very good. Most people in the world have dopamine deficiency. We do want the balance of pleasure and pain. Dopamine helps you feel motivated. We just need to know how to control it and use it better. There are foods and exercises that will help increase your dopamine. Hi guys, I'm currently editing. I'm going to show pictures of what dopamine looks like in the brain and people that are addicted to drugs and sugar. So the red part is the dopamine. We want to see red, even yellow. But like with a sugar intake or like a drug intake, it's going to be no red and green. So me wanting to look up more about dopamine and learn more is I wanted to know what sugar does. I drink a lot of soda recently. I like a lot of sweets. I've never had like a sugar addiction before. So where my research started, sugar removes all the dopamine from your brain. You don't have any dopamine when you have a sugar addiction. I'll show you pictures. Here's a brain with dopamine. Here's a brain on sugar with no dopamine. So like I crave sugar. Like I said, I don't know if I put it in there here or said it already. I've been making cakes on a weekly basis. I always have to have a cake in my fridge. If you're addicted to sugar like me, or coffee, or any kind of foods that are high content in sugar, well, the reason why you're always craving it is you're craving a high. You're craving that dopamine hit. But since the sugar made your brain release all the dopamine, you're never going to get that high. So every time I'm grabbing that cake at the end of the day, every time I'm grabbing that Dr. Pepper, I'm chasing a high that is not there. It's like removed from my brain. So now let's talk about dopamine deficiency. So dopamine deficiency causes laziness, not laziness. You're not motivated. It makes you unmotivated, fatigued, in a bad mood, depressed, anxious, poor sleep schedule. It also causes horrible lower back pain, weight fluctuation, and reduces your sex drive. That explains a lot. Dopamine deficiency can also cause a lot of horrible illnesses and disease such as Parkinson's, and that's where I stopped my research because I'm not going to play Google Doctor and go down that spiral. Grayson, do you want a treat? You want some treats? Stand up. Good boy. Grayson's addicted to these greenies. Okay, so he loves greenies, and I bought him the wrong ones one day. And they're like these tiny catnip ones. He cries all day in the middle of the night. He doesn't even know when it's treat time. He just wants the catnips. And then I could get him to do tricks. You like some catnip? Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. I do want to learn what foods are going to increase my dopamine. Learning how dangerous it is to have low dopamine in your brain is kind of scary, so I want to quit sugar. But yeah, that's what I've learned so far. I think it's useful for people that might think that they might have to take an antidepressant because they're always sad, but just know that your brain's trying to level itself out, and that if you understand what's going on in your body better, then it's easier to take care of the problem. I'm really excited for spring, guys. You don't even understand how excited I am that it's March. Like, plants are coming out. I have huge ideas for my garden. St. Patrick's Day's coming. My birthday's coming. Good things are coming. Anywho, thanks for letting me ramble. If you guys like this one or watched this far, please give me a thumbs up and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Boy, 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 boy.